First of all, tonight, Baruch Hashem, we're celebrating the Hillulah of Rabbi Hadan Pinto. Rabbi Hadan was also known as Rabbi Yehuda. His name is actually Rabbi Yehuda, but he received this nickname of Rabbi Hadan. Now, Rabotai, why is it that in the day of the Hillulah of any tzaddik, we all gather together and we pray for the merit of the tzaddik, we say Dvar Torah in the merit of the tzaddik, and we pray that Bezrat Hashem, because it's the day of the Hillulah, with the merit of the tzaddik, whatever we pray for the tzaddik, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will grant. What makes the day of the Hillulah so special that every year, each person that connects to a specific tzaddik, we go and we pray to that tzaddik, and we expect that this special night of the Hillulah, b'schut that tzaddik, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will grant what we pray for. What makes the night of the Hillulah more important than every other night of the year that we pray for the tzaddik? Now, Chazal teach us that the reason that it's so important to pray to the tzaddik in the night of its Hillulah, because Chazal teach us that 3 days before the Hillulah of the tzaddik and 3 days after the Hillulah of the tzaddik receives great power in Shamayim. And what the tzaddik can do in these days of his Hillulah, he is not able to do throughout the entire year. And these days are surrounding the Hillulah of the tzaddik, he has such a power that he can grant almost any prayer that a person comes and prays from the heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is why it is very important that in these days to connect ourselves with the tzaddik, that it's his Hillulah in these times, and by connecting ourselves to the tzaddik, we will be able to receive some of this koach, some of this bracha that the tzaddik has in these days of his Hillulah. Now we speak about connecting to the tzaddik. How does one connect to a tzaddik, to any tzaddik? Now, connecting to a tzaddik, there are two things. There is one thing to pray to the tzaddik, that in the merit of the tzaddik, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will grant the tefillah. But the one way to connect yourself with the tzaddik is that we sit down and we say stories of the tzaddik. We sit down and we repeat the Torah that tzaddik wrote. The Gemara in Masechet Bechorot, in page Lamed Aleph Amud Bet, there it says, Amar Rabbi Shimon, when people and Bnei Israel sit down and teach Torah and learn Torah, and we mention the name of the one that put that book together, Siftotav Medavdevot Bakever. That tzaddik that we're learning his Torah and we're mentioning that this is from him, his lips in the grave move, and we give the merit to the tzaddik to relearn that Torah that we are repeating. We give the merit to the tzaddik to redo that mitzvah, to redo that miracle when we sit down and we repeat the stories and we teach the Torah of the tzaddik. Now essentially what we're doing when we sit down and we learn something in the name of the tzaddik, or we say one of the nisim, one of the miracles, or we speak about the mitzvot that this tzaddik will do, we are actually meriting the tzaddik that he can come back to the world and redo that limud Torah and redo those mitzvot. We become partners with the tzaddik in that mitzvah. And by becoming partners with the tzaddik in that mitzvah, we are able to also be partners with the merit of the tzaddik. So we are connected to the tzaddik. So when we say the stories of all these tzaddikim and we learn the Torah and we mention their name, we are actually becoming partners with the tzaddik, and especially that it's now, these days where it's close to the Hillulah of any tzaddik, and we connect ourselves, we can receive big berachot. Because as we know, the Gemara in Masechet Chulin Daf Zayin says that tzaddikim, they are bigger when they are no longer in this world than when they are in this world. Gedolim tzaddikim b'mitatam yoter michayim. That tzaddikim have more strength and have more power to do things when they're no longer in this world than when they're in the next. What's the reason for that? The reason for that is something beautiful. tzaddikim, when they're in this world, no tzaddik wants to give up a piece of his merit. No tzaddik wants to trade his merit for a miracle. So when you come to a tzaddik that he's still alive and you ask for a miracle and you pray for a miracle, he's not going to want to trade his zchuyot, his merit, for a miracle. But when a tzaddik is no longer in this world, the concept of a tzaddik giving up his merit for a miracle or for something unordinary to happen does no longer exist. So when a tzaddik is already in the next world and you pray that in the merit of the tzaddik, any prayer that we pray for, if that prayer is heard from the tzaddik, the tzaddik can use his merit to a completion and use all the merit he has to grant one tefillah. Because the concept of giving up a merit in order to receive a miracle does no more exist. So in today that we are in the Hillulah, Rabbi Hadan, we should all pray and try our best to connect to the tzaddik. And we're going to, B'ezrat Hashem, say a couple of stories that with Rabbi Hadan, in order that B'ezrat Hashem, we can be partners with that merit of Rabbi Hadan, be partners with the mitzvot of Rabbi Hadan, to be able to receive big brachot, and to be able to receive shefa from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We also cannot forget what the Baal Shem Tov says, that kol ha'osek b'maaseh tzadikim, ki'ilu osek b'maaseh merkava. A person that sits down and says stories of miracles, says stories of tzaddikim, it's as if that person is sitting down and learning and teaching maaseh merkava. Maaseh merkava is the highest form of Kabbalah. Why is that? How is it that when a person says a story that happened to a tzaddik, that he did a miracle, that it's as if he's doing the highest form of Kabbalah, maaseh merkava? And that goes back to that same Gemara that we brought in Masechet Bechorot. That when we say a story of the tzaddik, when we mention something, a mitzvah that a tzaddik did, that tzaddik is able to relive that mitzvah. And that tzaddik is able to add more merit to his pile of merit of great things. And we become partner with the mitzvot, with the Torah of that tzaddik. So if that tzaddik would learn Maaseh Merkava, by speaking about the tzaddik, we actually partner with that learning of Maaseh Merkava that tzaddik did when he was alive in this world. So B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to start with a couple of stories of Rabbi Hadan. Rabbi Hadan Pinto was the son of Rabbi Chaim Pinto Agadol. Rabbi Hadan was the grandson of Rabbi Shlomo. Rabbi Hadan, throughout his entire life, was known to be a big Baal Chesed. He was known to be a tzaddik that gave up his entire life in order to do chasadim, in order to feed the poor. It was said about Rabbi Hadan that he would go in the streets collecting money in order to buy tefillin, in order to buy food for the poor, in order to do anything that has to do with chasadim. Rabbi Hadan was known to be the first one to run and to come forward and to grab any mitzvah that had to do with gimilut chasadim. Something amazing that was told about Rabbi Hadan, that Rabbi Hadan had long hair. And he grew his hair long in order that at the night, when he learns Torah and he falls asleep, he would tie his hair to the ceiling, that whenever he falls asleep, his hair would pull his head and he would wake up. Rabbi Hadan was a tzaddik that was extraordinary and not a tzaddik that is found, that you can find regularly. Rabbi Hadan was a tzaddik that was very extraordinary and very, very special. Rabbi Hadan was also known for being a big Baal Chesed, Maaseh Nisim. Rabbi Hadan was known to doing Nisim and Niflaot, to doing miracles that are unheard of. Now, to get into the story of Rabbi Hadan, there's a beautiful story that actually connects Rabbi Hadan to Rabbi Nachman Mibreslev. That actually Rabbi Nachman Mibreslev has a big connection to Rabbi Hadan Pinto. When Rabbi Hadan was born to Rabbi Chaim Pinto, at the 8th day of the day of the Brit Milah, it was told that Rabbi Chaim Pinto Agadol, that after 300 years almost, still Rabbi Chaim Pinto is in the lips of every Moroccan person. When he had this son, Rabbi Hadan, when he started to prepare for the Brit Milah, he invited the entire city. Rabbi Chaim Pinto wanted to do the Brit Milah at the best way, the most meudar way possible. And as we know what the Torah says, Vayashkim Avraham Baboker, that Avraham woke up when the sun rised. The best time to do the Brit Milah according to the Halacha is when the sun comes up. Just when the sun comes up. So Rabbi Hadan invited the entire city, and the entire city gathered early in the morning to be a part of the Brit Milah of the son of Rabbi Chaim Pinto. There the entire city gathered, they did Tefillat Shacharit. Right after Tefillat Shacharit, they decided to start to prepare for the Brit. And Rabbi Chaim Pinto got up and said, we have to wait for the Sandak. Now all the guests that were sitting there in the Brit Milah were very confused. They were confused, they don't understand. There is a Tzaddik Rabbi Chaim Pinto, and Rabbi Chaim Pinto is inviting someone else to be the Sandak. If Rabbi Chaim Pinto is inviting someone else to be the Sandak, then it needs to be someone very, very special. An hour passed, everyone's waiting. 2 hours passed, no Sandak is found. Rabbi Chaim gets up again, and he says, everyone needs to stay, no one's allowed to leave, everyone needs to wait for the Sandak. We have a special Sandak that is coming to Bezrat Hashem, to be the one to bring our son, not named yet, but Rabbi Hadan, into Brito Shel Avraham Avinu. And like that, hour after hour after hour, the entire city is waiting for this Brit Milah, for this Sandak to show up, and he doesn't show up. Night started to fall, and still everyone were waiting for this Sandak to show up. A couple of minutes before Shki'ah, suddenly, an old man walks in the door, an old man with a long beard, and Rabbi Chaim Pinto runs to this old man, greets him, kisses him, says, come, he honors him, and he tells everyone, the Sandak is here, now we can start the Brit. They do the Brit, the Sandak finishes, the Moed finishes the whole process, they name the Tzaddik Rabbi Hadan, and suddenly this old man disappears. The Sandak that they waited for the entire day, the mystery Sandak that everyone was waiting for, suddenly they have no clue where he disappeared. All the guests, they were confused. They said, what is this? The whole day we wait for the Sandak. The Sandak finally comes. No one knows this Sandak. No one knows this rabbi. Out of all the tzaddikim that there is in Morocco, and we know that Morocco was the tzaddikim were walking like regular people. Out of all the tzaddikim, you pick someone that no one knows. Who is this person? If Rabbi Chaim Pinto chose him, he must be someone special. When they approached Rabbi Chaim and they asked him, who was this Sandak? Rabbi Chaim refused to say who was that Sandak. And they convinced him and they pushed him to share who was really the Sandak. Rabbi Chaim Pinto looked at everyone and he said, there's no point of telling you who the Sandak is because you don't know who he is. None of you know who he is. So after the guests, after everybody, after all the Gdolim of Morocco were insisting to know who the Sandak was, Rabbi Chaim Pinto looked at them and they said, my son, Rabbi Hadan, has a nitzotz, has a piece of the neshama of a tzaddik far, far away called Rabbi Nachman. As known today, Rabbi Nachman Mibreslov. That actually, Rabbi Hadan had a piece of the neshama of Rabbi Nachman Mibreslov. Many years passed, Rabbi Hadan grew up, became the tzaddik who he was, became famous all around Morocco, became famous all around the world for being a person of nisim v'niflaot. And unfortunately, Rabbi Chaim Pinto at a certain point passed away, and Rabbi Hadan was left. He was left alone in this world. One night, Rabbi Hadan is sleeping, and his father, Rabbi Chaim Pinto, appears to him in a dream. And Rabbi Chaim Pinto tells Rabbi Hadan, you need to come and you must go to this tzaddik called Rabbi Nachman because you have a piece of his neshama. Where is it? It's far, far away. In the dream, Rabbi Hadan looked at Rabbi Chaim, his father, and he said, how do you expect me, a Talmid Chacham, a person that all what I did all my life, I sat down and I learned, to travel across the world, to meet, to find this burial site of a tzaddik that who knows if he's known. So Rabbi Chaim Pinto said, I'm going to send someone called Rabbi Moshe Montefiore. That this Rabbi Moshe Montefiore right now he's on a boat coming from London, and he's going to arrive tomorrow at the port of Morocco. He is going to, Be'ezrat Hashem, take you to the Tzaddik Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Hadan, of course, he woke up, and he was sure that he needs to meet right the next morning this person called Rabbi Moshe Montefiore. The same night, Rabbi Chaim Pinto appears in a dream to who? Rabbi Moshe Montefiore. When he comes to the dream of Rabbi Moshe Montefiore, he tells Rabbi Moshe, I have a son named Rabbi Hadan. He is going to Be'ezrat Hashem, waiting for you in the port tomorrow. I want you to take him to the kever of Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Moshe Montefiore, he woke up and he said, Chalamot shav yidaberu. Dreams are a lot of dreams. They talk, but they don't have much meaning. And he went back to sleep. As soon as he went back to sleep, who returns to him in the dream? Rabbi Chaim Pinto. Rabbi Chaim Pinto, the second time, he came and he said, don't say Chalamot shav yidaberu. It's not stam dreams that are talking that have no meaning. Tomorrow, my son will be waiting for you at the port, and you must take him to the kever of Rabbi Nachman. Again, Rabbi Moshe Montefiore wakes up and he says, this is a very hard night, Chalamot shav yidaberu, and he goes back to sleep. The third time, Rabbi Chaim Pinto came back to him, and this time he was not talking to him. Rabbi Moshe Montefiore says that the third time that he came to him, Rabbi Chaim Pinto was choking him. And he told him, I'm giving you the last chance to promise me that tomorrow you're going to take my son to a Rebbe Minachman, or if not, I don't know. Rabbi Moshe right away wakes up, out of breath, feels like someone was choking him. Rabbi Moshe says that when he looked at his neck when he woke up, he found red marks of arms around his neck. The next day, when they arrived at the port of Morocco, Rabbi Moshe Montefiore, he said, I don't know what it was last night, but when I get to the port, I have to ask at least if there's such a thing of a tzaddik called Rabbi Hadan. When he arrived at the port, he started to ask, is there a tzaddik called Rabbi Hadan? So right away, they said, who are you? He said, I am Moshe Montefiore. They said, Rabbi Yehuda is waiting for you. He told everyone that he's looking for a man called Rabbi Moshe Montefiore. Go there, he's waiting for you. There, Rabbi Moshe Montefiore met Rabbi Hadan, Rabbi Yehuda. And the story goes that Rabbi Moshe Montefiore took Rabbi Hadan to Rabbi Nachman, and they went for a trip that took them 3 years. And after 3 years, because before it was to get to Rabbi Nachman was not like today that it's very simple. To get to Rabbi Nachman from Morocco was a very, very big deal. It took them 3 years to do that journey. And Rabbi Moshe Montefiore actually had the merit of taking Rabbi Hadan twice to the tziyun of Rabbi Nachman, the nitzot of his neshama. We see Rabotai, Rabbi Hadan, not only from big shoshelet of tzaddikim of Mishpachat Pinto, because already from Rabbi Hadan there was already hundreds of years of history of Mishpachat Pinto, but Rabbi Hadan also had a big neshama, a big connection to tzaddikim and to places that are much bigger than you would think. Now, Rabotai, the story that I'm about to mention, before I get into the story, I want to say that I am not taking any responsibility from this story. This is a story that is mentioned in the book of Rabbi Chaim Pinto. And it is a story that Rabbi Moshe, my grandfather, the father of the rabbi, is a story that Rabbi Moshe would mention all the time. That he says that his father, Rabbi Chaim Pinto HaKatan, heard it from his father, Rabbi Hadan. Now this story, I'm not taking any responsibilities, and I'm not going to explain more than what I say in the story. Rabbi Hadan, as much as he was connected to the worlds to come, to big neshamot, Rabbi Hadan was also connected to all the worlds that could exist. One day it was told about Rabbi Hadan that he was walking in the street. And when he was walking in the street, he saw a frog. He approached this frog, and he saw that this frog was a female frog that was actually pregnant. He looked at this frog, and he told this frog, I promise you, I am going to be the sandak of your son. And he went his own way, and he continued on with life. A couple of months later, a man appears to Rabbi Hadan. And this man tells Rabbi Hadan, you made a promise a couple of months ago that you would be the sandak of my son. And you promised my wife that you would be the sandak of my son. So Rabbi Hadan, so if I promised this promise, I'm going to fulfill my promise. Take me to the Brit Milah. This person told Rabbi Hadan, I will not be able to take you if you see where we're going. So the only way I will be able to take you is if I cover your eyes. And you won't be able to see where I'm taking you. Rabbi Hadan, in order to keep his promise, he agreed to be covered and for him to not see where this man was taking him. And this man took him. When they reached this anonymous place that was hidden, right away, Rabbi Hadan sees a lady with a baby, and actually this lady with her kid was the frog that is in the form of a human. When this lady approached Rabbi Hadan at the Brit Milah, this lady told Rabbi Hadan to be careful and to not eat from anything that's in the Suda. What's the reason for that? Because she told Rabbi Hadan everything that's in the Suda was stolen. Now, Rabbi Hadan ended up being the sandak of this son. And for everyone to understand what is this story, Rabbi Hadan was connected, this is what goes back to places that are not necessarily every tzaddik connects to. There is something called Shedin Yehudaim. It is a Jewish form of a shed, chas v'shalom. That actually Rabbi Hadan was able, with his kedusha, to connect and to be connected to all the worlds, from the highest world in Shamayim to the lowest world in our world of the bottom. Rabbi Hadan was not only a tzaddik that had great connection, he was also a big miracle maker. It was said once about Rabbi Hadan that every year he had a deal with one of the bigger bakeries that existed in Morocco. That every year, a day before Pesach, the owner of this bakery would completely close his bakery in order for Rabbi Hadan to come and to bake the matzot himself, for him, his family, and for all the religious people that didn't have enough money to buy matzot. It was told about Rabbi Hadan that one year he did all the preparations to do the minhag, to do what he does every year, to go to the bakery and to make the matzot for Erev Pesach. So he brought his flour, he had his special utensils, and he got ready. He was excited to prepare a mitzvah of eating matzot on Pesach. And he gets to the bakery and he starts doing the whole process. And he opens the oven. And what does he see there? He sees that there's matzot. So right away, Rabbi Hadan, he had such tsar. He said, I don't understand. It was supposed to be empty for me to make my matzot for the Chag. Rabbi Hadan right away approached the Baal HaBayit and told the Baal HaBayit, I don't understand. We had a deal that you, and the day before Pesach, you make sure that your complete kitchen is completely clean so I can come and make my matzot for Pesach. This Baal HaBayit did a big mistake. And he told Rabbi Hadan, it's busy today. why don't you come another day to make your matzot? It says that Rabbi Hadan, he had such tsar, he had such pain from the way that this person, that he won't be able to bake his matzot for the Chag the way he was used to, that he didn't even answer a word. He got up and he walked away. When he left the building, suddenly something extremely unordinary happened. The fire that was in the oven started to spread. And that fire caught on to the entire bakery. When this owner sees that like something that's not according to the laws of nature, that fire just comes out like wind and takes over the entire bakery at one shot, this Jew understood that he did a big mistake, that he shamed the Torah of Rabbi Hadan and he shamed that Kedusha of Rabbi Hadan. He right away approached Rabbi Hadan, chased Rabbi Hadan, begging for Mechila and asking from Rabbi Hadan Mechila, that he will forgive him for the sin that he did, that he embarrassed and he didn't keep his word. Rabbi Hadan looked at him. He said, I will forgive you. But next time, keep your word, because we know that it's a big isur that after we do a promise and to not keep the promise. A big miracle happened at that moment. In that very moment, and this is a story that my grandfather, Rabbi Moshe Pinto, recalls and writes in his book, that every single time they would walk by this bakery, they would remember that miracle. In that moment where Rabbi Hadan accepted his forgiveness and they agreed that this Jew did a mistake and he regrets what he did, something extraordinary happened. The fire disappeared and there was no sign that fire caught onto the bakery at all. As if the fire disappeared completely. Something extraordinary. And this is the story that Rabbi Moshe, my grandfather, he writes in his book that he recalls that every single day when they would pass by this bakery, they would remember this miracle and they would speak about the miracle of Rabbi Hadan with that bakery. Rabbi Hadan was a tzaddik where the concept of keeping your word, especially with tzedakah, because as mentioned, Rabbi Hadan would search for any opportunity to be able to come and do chesed, to do something to help the poor. Rabbi Hadan was very, very machmir, very, very tough, that when a person did a promise and did not keep its promise. It was told once about Rabbi Hadan that there was a man, that he was a socher, he was a dealer, that this dealer, his panasa was that he would once a year, he would look all around Morocco for the best etrogim, for the best lulavim, and he would bring the best etrogim and the best lulavim to the city wherever the Jews were, and sell the lulavim and sell the etrogim. One year, this Jew was traveling with all his merchandise of lulavim and etrogim, and suddenly a big group of thieves, they attacked him, and they decided that they're going to steal everything and make him disappear. This Jew, he when he explains the story, he said, when they caught me and they were about to kill me, I looked at the Shamayim and I begged, with the merit of Rabbi Chaim Pinto, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu will save me, I promise that I will give your son, Rabbi Hadan, 500, whatever money it was at that time. This Jew recalls that moment that he made that promise that he's going to give 500 golden coins or whatever it was 250 years ago. Suddenly, those thieves decided that there's no point to take what he has because what he has is not worth it to God forbid, get into trouble. And they let him go. This Jew, when he was traveling back to the city, he realized, he said, I did a big mistake. I promised too much. 500 gold coins, it was too much. I am not going to be able to give Rabbi Hadan 500 gold coins. I'm going to give him 100 gold coins. He arrived to the city and he said that tomorrow I'm going to go and pay Rabbi Hadan. My promise, I'm going to give him 100, not 500. That night, Rabbi Chaim Pinto appears in the dream of Rabbi Hadan. And Rabbi Chaim Pinto comes to Rabbi Hadan and tells Rabbi Hadan, there is a dealer that tomorrow is going to come and give you 100 ruble, or 100 gold coins, or whatever it was. He promised me that he would give you 500. Don't accept 100. Make sure that he does not give you 100 rubles. So right away, Rabbi Hadan, he waits the next day for this Jew, and this Jew knocks on the door, and he hands him a bag, an envelope of whatever form of money it was, worth 100. Rabbi Hadan, without even opening it, he looks at him and he says, you owe me another 400. So this Jew, he said, I don't understand. How do you know that I owe you another 400? He said, because it's very simple. You were traveling, and thieves came to rob you and to kill you. And you promised my father that you would pay him if he, with his merit, saved you. And you promised 500 ruble. So keep your promise and give me your 500 ruble, not for me. Give me your 500 ruble for tzedakah, for what I'm going to do with this money. This Jew, right away, I'm sure nobody wanted to chas v'shalom make Rabbi Hadan angry. He paid the sum of money and he finished and he completed his promise that he made. Another very beautiful, similar story that is very, very similar to this story of Rabbi Hadan is Rabbi Hadan had a minhag that every single person that was a part of his community, as soon as they would travel, Rabbi Hadan, under no circumstance, would he allow this person to travel unless he walks with him to the port. He would never allow any one of his kihila, of his group of people that in Morocco, travel for work or to travel for any reason if he didn't escort them out of the city. It was told that one time he escorted a very, very rich man that was going from Morocco to London in order to bring a lot of merchandise to sell in Morocco. And when Rabbi Hadan was escorting him, this Jew, this businessman, looked at Rabbi Hadan and he told one of his people that were with him, he said, look, the tzaddik is walking after me in order that when he gets to the port, he's going to tell me, okay, 10% of what you make, you're giving to tzedakah. Rabbi Hadan heard that. And Rabbi Hadan was known to be a tzaddik that he wouldn't sleep at night if he had $1 in his house. He would look at the penny as the yetzer hara. But in the same way, all day, what was he doing? Learning Torah and collecting money for the poor. When Rabbi Hadan heard this, he ran home and he was crying. When he got to his house, it said that from pain that he had, he vomited blood. The family members of Rabbi Hadan, right away, they told Rabbi Hadan, go to the rooftop to get some air because it's very hard on you. So right away, Rabbi Hadan went to the rooftop and he was getting some air after he had such tzar that all what he does is for Shem Shamayim. And this person gets up and says something like this. From the rooftop, he looks and he sees 2 ships. And he right away asked one of his gabaim, he said, what are those 2 ships? So one of the gabaim that were with him, one of the people, his chassidim, right away said, those 2 ships belong to the rich man that is now going to London. While they are looking at the ships, they barely left the port. The one ship was full of merchandise, and the other ship was full of him and of the rich man and whatever he had to travel with him. While they're looking at the ship of merchandise catches on fire, and burns to the ground until it drowns. Right away, one of the Hasidim, he saw that this person, he hurt the tzaddik, and now look, you hurt the Torah of the tzaddik, you hurt the kedusha of the tzaddik. That Torah, chas v'shalom, can bring big judgment on this person itself. Now, Baruch Hashem, it was only the ship of the merchandise, but very soon it can be chas v'shalom his ship. Right away, this Hasid decided to run, to go call the wife, the family of this man, in order to do mechila, to say sorry, in order to break the judgment that this person chas v'shalom can receive. While this Hasid was running to the house, who does he meet in the way? He already meets the family of this man, running, crying, saying, we have to run to Rabbi Eden because we think something bad happened. When they got to Rabbi Eden, they explained to the wife and family what the husband did. And the wife begged for forgiveness and begged for Rabbi Eden to pray that chas v'shalom nothing will happen to her husband. So Rabbi Eden looked at his wife and he said, I promise you, your husband, Bezrat Hashem, will come back alive, but nothing more than that. 3 months later, when this rich man was supposed to come back, he started to return from London to Morocco with 5 ships. In the middle of the way, in the middle of the journey between London and Morocco, all 4 ships sunk, and there was one ship left where the rich man was on that he said, I lost all what I put, but at least I can get home. In the middle of the way, it was very, very windy, and the last ship that the rich man was on was about to collapse and fall under, to drown. When he was inside the ship, he remembered, started to cheshbon nefesh, and he said, maybe it's all this that's been happening to me, the first ship that burnt and my other 4 ships that drowned, maybe all this came from what I did when I left Morocco, that I offended the Tzaddik Rabbi Hadan. So right away, this man, he said, I promise, and he prayed to Rabbi Chaim Pinto, with the merit of Rabbi Chaim Pinto, that I promise that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me the merit to get back to Morocco alive, I will give Rabbi Hadan a humongous sum of money. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a miracle with the merit of Rabbi Chaim Pinto, and the ship arrived safely to Morocco. This man, after all the stress of the travel, completely forgot. It's easy to do promises. He completely forgot about the promise that he made, that he would give a big sum of money to Rabbi Hadan. Right away, when he arrived to Morocco, same Rabbi Chaim Pinto and Rabbi Hadan had a very close connection. I'm going to say something small before I finish. Rabbi Chaim Pinto comes back to the dream of Rabbi Hadan, and he tells Rabbi Hadan, this man promised me that he would give you a big sum of money, but he has no idea that he promised you. He completely forgot. So don't let him be judged. Go right now to his house and take the money from him. Rabbi Hadan right away goes to the house, knocks on the door, and this rich man sees who's standing here out of all people that can be in the city. Rabbi Hadan. Rabbi Hadan says, you owe me this and this and this amount of money. So this person looked at Rabbi Hadan and he said, how is it that you know that these small detail, how do you know that I owe you to this exact amount? So Rabbi Hadan, like the previous story, explained to him his entire situation, and he said, you promised Rabbi Chaim Pinto, Rabbi Chaim Pinto did chesed with you. That he sent me to collect the money, not chas v'shalom, you making the promise and not keeping it. Right away, this rich man fulfilled his promise and gave that big sum of money to Rabbi Hadan in order to feed the poor of Morocco. To close the story, the life of Rabbi Hadan, with its tzedakot, there's a beautiful story that we can understand really where Rabbi Hadan was when it comes up to tzedakot. Rabbi Hadan with tzedakot, it was told about him that you would never see Rabbi Hadan wear a piece of clothes that was new. That was new.
New.
There was no such thing that Rabbi Hadan would wear something that even has the smallest look of something new. Rabbi Hadan he surrounded his life around the chesed, around giving, around making sure that the poor of the city have food to eat. It was told that one year there was a big famine in Morocco, where there was no food to eat. And it was Erev Pesach, where Rabbi Hadan went to sleep, and he said, tomorrow, Leila Seder, including me, will not have food to do the Leila Seder. That night, Rabbi Hadan receives a dream. And again, Rabbi Chaim Pinto, his father, comes back to him in the dream, and he tells them, tomorrow, I am sending you somebody called Moshe Aharon. That he is a very rich man, that he is going to make sure that you and your family have what to eat for the Chag. The next morning, who knocks on the door? Moshe Aharon. And the same story, Moshe Aharon says, your father came to me in the dream, and he demanded me to give a huge sum of money to make sure that you have food for the Chag. Rabbi Hadan took that money. He was also told that he gave him a golden watch and a golden bracelet. Rabbi Hadan took all that money, including that watch and that bracelet, sold it, and made sure that all the poor of that city had what to eat. After he fed everyone, he went and he did his small shopping for the Chag. That was Rabbi Hadan when we hear about a tzaddik that gave everything for the tzedakah, that gave everything for the Gimlut Chasadim, for helping the people, that gave everything for that mitzvah of Gimlut Chasadim. And here I'm going to finish with a last maaseh of Rabbi Hadan, that Be'ezrat Hashem, may this maaseh, may this story appear to everyone in his own way, in his own situation of life. It was said that in year 1874, that the Sultan of the city of where Rabbi Hadan lived passed away. And after the Sultan passed away, there was a group of rebels from outside the city that decided that they are going to do a ma'apecha, do a revolution, to take over the city. So they planned that tomorrow they are going to surround the gates of the city, and they're going to break into the city and destroy the city and kill everyone that's inside. When the leader of the city, the mayor, whatever it was at that time, the second-hand man of the Sultan that passed away, when he understood that in a few hours there was going to be big destruction to the city, he couldn't think of another place to go than to the house of Rabbi Hadan. When he went to the house of Rabbi Hadan, he begged Rabbi Hadan to pray that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do a miracle. That Be'ezrat Hashem, something will happen that they won't enter the city and destroy the city. Rabbi Hadan looked at this mayor, at this, whatever he was, whatever position he was, and he did a tefillah, and he said, my father promised that he will send his messengers to protect the city. And he said nothing else. He said that Rabbi Chaim Pinto is going to make sure that he's going to send people to protect the city, but that's it. Something extremely unordinary happened. Suddenly, from the graveyard where Rabbi Chaim Pinto, the father of Rabbi Hadan, was buried, 2 white horses with 2 soldiers wearing complete white march out of the cemetery of Rabbi Chaim Pinto. And where do they run? They run to the entrance of the city. Everyone at that point was getting as far as they can from the entrance. The story, what we see in books, that history says that it was a day of complete silence from the gates of the city. The rebels were not able to enter, but in the end of the day, when they sent a messenger to see what's happening enter to the city, they saw every single rebel dead on the floor like he lost in a war. That's a story that we don't know. No one knows what really happened. But what we do know is that's the power and that's the protection of the tzaddik when we connect to the tzaddik. That's the power of a big tzaddik that devoted his life for Gemilut Chasadim, gave himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Limud Torah, for Gemilut Chasadim. And when we can connect ourselves to tzaddikim like that, we're able to receive their protection. And may Bezrat Hashem, b'schut the merit of Rabbi Hadan Pinto, the Holy Grandfather, and b'schut Rabbi Chaim Pinto, b'schut Kol Avotei HaKadoshim, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu send everyone here their messengers, and ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשי ידיו. ובעזרת השם שהקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא את כל משעות לבכם לטובה, אמן כן יהי רצון. אמן.